Today is Sunday the 3rd of March and it's a nice dry day for a change. The last 2 days have been absolutely teeming with rain, tipping with rain I should say, and there's been floods everywhere. So it's a welcome change to see the sun. I'm now going to walk into the greenhouse because it's Sunday and it's a very busy day and the car park is already getting crowded with cars. And what I have to show you is quite an interesting tree.
It's got a big garden.
Okay, lovely. Yeah, it needs. You've had it in that pot for how long?
I bought that pot here just about a year ago.
Is that all?
It into that pot.
Only
yes.
a year. Okay.
It was in an ordinary ceramic pot before, but that much smaller. And I bought that to pot it in. And that's a much deeper pot than it was in before.
So how many years in training would you say?
Well, I bought it in '93.
Whoa, 30 years!
Yeah,
30 years of training.
93.
No, was it trained all that time?
But it was bought as an ornamental. We didn't. Well, I think probably it was about 95, 96 when we did the initial training. But I haven't touched it since. But yeah, it's got to be done.
Yeah. See, now even that root over there, people would say is a fault, but you can't help it. It's okay. It's natural.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too fussed about that.
No.
And the third branch at the back, I really think it is appropriate for that
I
tree.
think so,
Absolutely
yes.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. Without that, it wouldn't work. And the foliage is so fine. I'd love to know the variety of this Hinoki because there are many types of obtusa. Many types of obtusa.
Yes. Well, there was one when we.
But it's certainly a
when we had it in the
obtusa.
ornamental part. There was one part that actually reverted to a different type of foliage.
They do that.
Which I cut
They
off,
do
which
that.
I cut off.
They do that. Yeah. We have some ordinary Hinokis which the Japanese grow for timber trees. They grow absolutely straight.
Well,
but the foliage is more coarse than
I
that.
guess the grafted ones are more likely to put on different foliage, aren't they?
Not necessarily. I have those ordinary Hinokis and they also revert. Very nice. And you're going to, what do you think? Can't decide about the pot.
We're still deciding.
We're still deciding.
We're still deciding. Not quite as deep back to front, is it?
I think it's the perfect pot.
Yeah, I've quite like
It is the perfect pot. It is the perfect pot. I'm not trying to sell you that because it's shorter than that one. That one was a bit too long. That's a lovely. Looking at that Hinoki Cypress bonsai, which our friend Alan Peacock has created, brought me to the back garden where I need to show you some of the Hinokis that I grow myself. And this is exactly the same type of tree. This was planted in 1990 when I made the pond. This tree is every bit 9 foot tall. And Hinokis grow in this very distinctive style with the fronds and the pads. And you can remember what I did in summer. I did go around and trim the tree a bit. So this is what the tree looks like now. Beautiful tree, but it can't stay like this forever if you don't trim it. So they have to be constantly seen to in order to keep it in good condition. It's almost a bonsai in its own right. Looking at it like this. I have several of these Hinokis because Hinoki is a very favorite species of mine, but they are difficult to make into good bonsai. So this is the Hinoki. Now let me walk to another Hinoki because we've got several Hinokis here. Being such a lovely sunny day, I don't mind walking around. Now this green tree next to the bare leaf maple is also a hinoki, but this is the wild species type that are grown in Japan for forest trees. Again, I've trimmed this to make it look more Japanesey looking, for want of a better expression. So I've thinned the branches to introduce layers, and this is what this tree looks like now. And in the background I have an obtusa, Nana gracilis, which is the ornamental type of hinoki, similar to what I showed you earlier. And this has not been trimmed, so they grow in this fashion. Now this tree is about 9 or 10 foot tall as well. So this is 30 years growing beside the pond, but the tree would be, I would say, 50 years old, because they were already about 2 or 3 inches thick when I planted it. I've been trying to successively over the years air layer. Can you see there's a bag in there? And I don't know whether that is successful or not, but they are very hard to air layer. For some reason, even if they strike roots, they don't often transplant well. So this is one air layering I did of another hinoki. This is a hinoki that I've air layered, and this one managed to survive. But apart from that, hinokis are rather difficult to air layer. You would think that all Kami cypress would be easy to air layer, but not so. They tend to callus, but they don't succeed. Like this one, this didn't take. So this was unsuccessful attempt. So I need to go in there and clean this tree up to make it more presentable. Forget the air layering. You see so many air layers, but not many of them are successful. There's another tree I'm going to show you tomorrow, and this is this one, which was a root over rock that I've owned for many years. I'm going to clean it up and then smarten it up, and we will see what happens to this tree. So this is going to be a special video about hinokis. Funny how little incidents like this dear old friend of mine bringing his hinoki to choose a pot, and I've been inspired to talk about hinoki, because hinokis are lovely trees. I've got more at the back, because when I imported trees back in 1993-94, we used to bring these large hinokis as garden trees. So I've got a few more trees that I've just allowed to grow as ordinary garden trees. I grow them because the foliage is very nice looking, very delightful. And I dare say if we air lay these trees, they could make nice bonsai. So this is the ordinary species type hinoki. Certainly worth air laying. I've never tried air laying because it's a very common tree. So wherever you look on the nursery, we have hinokis. And to show you another secret, we have lots of them, but I keep them to grow on because they are not easy to get. I've got about 50 or 60 hinokis waiting to be trained, but they can be difficult trees to take care of. So what I have here in the background are these large hinokis in flower pots that have been growing, and they will all become bonsai eventually. So here you are, lots and lots of hinokis. Unfortunately, they are grafted, and the graft causes a large bulge, and that doesn't make for a nice bonsai. So if you are interested in hinoki, we certainly have them here at Herons. So I'm going to show you that root over rock hinoki when I film tomorrow. And there are 1 or 2 other specimens of hinoki that I have on the nursery, which I will talk about so that you can appreciate and understand much more about Hinoki and their growth habits. Now again, I'm going to show you another classic tree, one of the trees that were shown in my first book. And this book, as I keep repeating, was published in 1984, and I wrote it in that year. And this is what the caption says. This group of 5 Hinoki cypress was imported from Japan 25 years ago. On a piece of sandstone, the group is 55 centimeter high, 90 centimeter across, extremely heavy because the rock alone weighs 30 kilograms. The foliage has been thinned regularly in order to prevent dieback of the lower branches. So that was it with 5 trees on the rock. But over the years, some of the trees have died. First of all, 1 died, and then we were left with 4. And I will show you what has happened since then, because we're in the middle of going to repot and resuscitate and restyle the tree. So here we are. This is the self-same tree. Again, 44 years later. You don't often get root over rock over sandstone because most of the root over rock are on Ibigawa rock. So in the early 60s, many of the Japanese trees, root over rocks, were planted on sandstone. And of course, dominant trees strangle the other ones, but it so happens that this main tree suffered badly. I couldn't save it, so that's died, but it's going to be ginned when we restyle it. So we're just going to repot it and get it back to full health before we work on it. So as we say, you can watch this space. And I'll show you it. You don't often see many Hinoki cypress as bonsai.
No, it's
Difficult species.
yeah. I mean, the Dutch do a lot, yeah, because there's a lot of tree nurseries out there where they've got big fat Hinokis, you know. And there's a few of those knocking about. There was one at the trophy this time.
Oh. But they're invariably grafted on that very ugly.
Yes, yeah, they've got huge base like this, and then you know,
Leylandia root
it's,
base.
yeah, it's beyond reverse taper. Yeah, I mean,
Gross.
The office went to phone. Did you say anything? Oh, careful, Kev, you're missing. You're missing.
So this is the Hinoki forest repotted. And we're going to watch the progress of this. When it is healthy, we'll get Kevin to style it and rewire it. That dead tree is crying out to be a dramatic gin. And as we always say, watch this space. Old trees are like human beings, isn't it? They don't keep in good health every single year. Some years they go uphill, downhill.
yeah.
But if you have a good hospital treatment, they could be revived. Unlike human beings, it's probably easier to resuscitate a tree than to resuscitate a sick human being.
That's right. I mean, but some of the most incredible bonsai trees, yeah, have declined, yeah, and come back, yeah, you know what I mean? And you know, like 2 dragons, I saw.
Oh, they always call this phoenix rising from the ashes, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, but I saw my friend came back from Japan with a picture and said, "Do you remember that tree?" And it was 2 dragons, yeah, that belonged to Kabayashi's son.
Oh.
and it was in a terrible state. You know, but they just left it for a while. Yeah, you know what I mean. Sometimes leaving stuff. Yeah, you know what I mean. You end up with a better effect.
Okay.
Sometimes need to give them a holiday. Yeah, you know. You know, I think it's got a future again. This tree.
Okay, good. So let me take a final shot of this tree repotted. The roots were not rotten, but we teased a lot out. It can still see the beautiful rock in there and the roots clasping the rock. So there are now 4 trees left. So I tell a lie, there was originally 5, not 7. So only 1 tree died, but subsequently another tree has died, which will be ginned eventually, and we will make something out of it. Fortunately, the triangular shape, the crown is still there, so there is hope still for this tree. Bearing in mind that this tree came from Japan again in 1962, so it's been in this country for 62 years, and I've owned it for about 42 or 44 years. So Hinoki cypress, exceedingly rare, not always easy to grow, but there you are. There's one. I'll take another shot of another tree which belongs to a customer, and I'll show you what that one looks like. Among all the jungle of trees here, these are all customers' trees, is a Hinoki cypress, and again you look at how fine the leaves are on this one. So they are really a magnificent species for bonsai. This was a formal upright tree. Again, this was imported by me in 1993 from Japan. These gin branches are branches that died, but the tree has put on 50% more height. The tree at the moment is about 90 centimeter or 95 centimeter. When it came from Japan, it was only 70 centimeter. So there is a tree, grand old tree, going back to the customer. And look at the detail. When the soil is washed away, you can see the wonderful nibari on this tree. So I hope you have some inkling of how magnificent these Hinoki cypress can look